Well, good morning, everyone. I am very happy to be here with you this morning and to be able to worship with you this morning. And I appreciate, I leaned over to Jeremy, I appreciate the ministry he's already brought with the service that has been unfolding before us and unfolding amongst us. But this morning, I want to share with you some thoughts around the continuing writings of Paul. And we have been studying for some time now the book of Romans, and we are now moving on to the book of Philippians. And I don't know if you'll remember, but a few weeks ago, one of the writings from Paul in the book of Romans, SpongeBob SquarePants helped share how to decipher what he was sharing in that verse. In that scripture, and it was centered around the idea that Paul was talking about. I know what I want to do sometimes, but I don't do it when I know that that's what I should be doing. And other times I know I'm not supposed to be doing something, but I still do it anyway. And I don't know myself. And it went on forever and ever, basically saying that. And he was really struggling with how to articulate the state that he was in. And it was one that just, you could hear just this mind overworking. Have you ever had that? You lay in bed at night and you can't shut your brain off? That's what it sounded like. It sounded like he rolled over and scribbled down everything that was going through his head, because that was the way it came across when I read it. In this case this morning, though, in the book of Philippians, chapter 1, he actually seems to have clarity in the midst of struggle. And I'm just going to paraphrase it very briefly, but he was writing to the Philippians, and the Philippians were a Gentile community that he had converted to Christianity. And he was writing to them from prison and saying, look, I don't know what's going to happen to me, but it's probably going to happen pretty soon. Either I am going to be dead or I'm not. And he said, I'm kind of torn between these two things because both of them are good. He said, if I die, I get to go with Christ. And that excites me. And if I don't die, then I'll be able to come and visit you some more. And so there's, in the midst of what I would call a crisis, he has real clarity, and he's able to share. There's really two things that are going to happen here. And you know what? I'm okay with both of them. And I look forward to whichever way this plays out, thy will be done. It's basically what the scripture shares. There's a lot more words to it, but that's the heart of it. And I want to really zero in on a couple aspects of it. One is that I'm gonna read the wording here. He says, but I may remain in the body, and convinced of this, I know that I will remain, and I will continue with all of you for your progress and joy in the faith, so that through this, you again will be boasting of Jesus Christ, and that boasting will abound. And I want to just share one real interesting aspect of this that I want to call out and clarify within it, which is that he used very specific wording in the way that he stated this. When he talked about remaining, if I remain, if I don't die, if I remain here and I'm able to visit with you and I'm able to remain with you, he had very specific wording that he chose. And this comes from William Barclay. And he says, Paul says that he would possibly remain and continue with them. And the word for remain, and I'll probably mispronounce this, but the word for remain in Greek is menion. But he chose the word paramenion. And it's hard to articulate the translation of the difference between those two in English, but succinctly, the point is this, that menion simply means to remain with. However, paramenion is not only that you will remain with that person, but it adds the phrase beside, standing beside. I will not only remain, I'm ready to help. It has action to it, not just that I'm here, but I'm here and I'm ready to help. And what he's describing in just that adding of 4 letters at the beginning of that word, what he is describing is community. He's describing community. I'm not only here, we can all just be here, but I am here standing beside you, ready to help. I'm a part of your community and you are a part of my community. And from that is great strength and great hope and great knowledge that I am not standing on an island and you are not standing on an island. We stand together, ready to help each other in the midst of trial, in the midst of confusion, whatever it may be. I stand here beside you, ready to help. A number of years ago at Camp Sanito reunion, there was a guest minister, and he was talking about community. And he said, you know, a study was recently done, and Community of Christ was found to be one of the top organizations that truly understood and exercised community, exhibited that community aspect, not only just in our name, but exercised it, had that as a part of our behaviors. And that's what I want to share with you this morning from a stance of blessedness and thankfulness. I want to share with you that we are an organization that has been able to create and to grow within its culture a strong sense of community, understanding what that means and what it entails and what it requires of us, and that we are one of the leading organizations in understanding and expressing community. And many times when something is just normal to you, you don't realize how special it is until others maybe point, either you lose that or others point out that that is not normal. What may be normal to you is not normal. And then you begin to realize the specialness of it. And I'm going to give you an example of that. When I was in high school, there was a group from Graceland that was coming down to South Padre Island. So I grew up in Los Fresnos, which is, if you've ever been to South Padre Island, it's a small little one-light town. If you ever got a ticket on the way to South Padre Island, you were in Los Fresnos. So that's one way to know it. And Los Fresnos is a great small community. But there's a group from Graceland that was coming down and was going to, they wanted to go to South Padre Island. And they called my dad as pastor and said, hey, are there any church members that would take us in for the week that we were down there? And I did, sure, right, we'll do that. So took him in. I don't remember if we distributed amongst or if they all stayed at our, I remember there was a big group staying at our house. And my dad was saying something to a coworker about, you know, we've got this group that's spring breakers that are here staying at our house this week, blah, blah. And the person said, I'm sorry, what can, so how do you know this group? And he said, oh, I don't know them. I don't know any of them. And he said, are you serious? And why would you take that group in? Because they called and they were looking for a place to stay. So we took him in. But the guy was like, okay, seriously, let me understand this some more. And he says, well, you know, this is a part of our church. And he goes, yeah, people from my church, if they called me, I wouldn't just take them in. I might point them out to some good deals on hotels in the area or something like that, but I wouldn't take them in. My dad said, no, this is what we do. And we took him in. We had a great time with him. But that's normal for a group whose culture is centered around establishing community. Now, one of the things that we know as our church is that we are not large. Agree? We're not large. And yet, I will say this. Sometimes we can look at small as a detriment. I look at small as a strength. And because that actually is a big part of increasing our sense of community within ourselves. And I want to share an event that happened in my life. This was in 1995, I believe it was, that I was going to be meeting up with some friends in Kansas City, and we were going to go out to the Rockies to Colorado, and we were going to go skiing for a week. And so it meant that I had to drive 14 hours to get to Kansas City to start the trip to drive the 10 hours out to Colorado then. And so I was going to go out there, and a buddy of mine, a coworker of mine named Ken, said, you're going to the Rockies? I said, you really ought to go ski the Rockies with me. And he was like, let's do it. So we agreed that we were going to Thursday night after work. We were going to pack, come to work with all of our stuff. Thursday night after work, get on the road, drive all night long, drive part of the next morning, arrive in Kansas City, get a little nap. And then we would catch the rest of the group as they got off work on Friday and head out to Colorado. Okay. So Wednesday night, I needed to pack. And I wasn't getting around to it. I'm a procrastinator when it comes to packing. That's not my favorite thing to do. So I'm procrastinating. Well, in the midst of my procrastination, I get a break, which is I get a call to go do something else. I'm like, yes, I'm interested in doing that because I don't want to pack. But the pastor of my congregation in Cleveland, in Elyria, called and said, there is a woman who is confined to her apartment and is in need of administration this evening. Would you join me for administration? Absolutely. So we did that. So then now I'm later and later getting to my packing, etc. So we start our drive the next night. Ken and I, we're talking just to keep each other awake as much as we can during the drive. And how was your night? Yeah, I was packing, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, I was procrastinating. And then I tell him about, getting a call and going and doing this in the midst of that. So I was up even later, blah, blah. But we get to Kansas City, and on the way there, I was telling him that our church, this is in 1995, our church had just finished the temple. And there was a painting of the sacraments that was in the temple, and one of the paintings was based on a picture of my dad doing a blessing. And I said, I'd like to go to the temple, and I explained to him what that was. He says, yeah, I'd like to go with you. Great. So Ken and I go to the temple. I'd never been there before, newly open. We fill out a card that says, because there was going to be a tour guide, right, for us. So we fill out a card, wait to get called. We get called. The guy comes up. He goes, Richard Cole. I said, yeah, that's us right here. And he goes, you're from Elyria, Ohio. And I said, yeah, you actually pronounced that correctly because people usually biff up that name. And he goes, yeah, I actually was in Elyria for a little while. Oh, is that right? And he goes, yeah, do you know anybody in Elyria named Ray Campbell? I said, Ray's a good friend of mine. I was just with him last night, as a matter of fact. And he says, were you the one administering to my mom last night? Ken, standing beside me, about passes out. He was floored by it. I said, I was. Your mom's a wonderful person, etc. Then we went on this tour. Ken couldn't get over this. The whole trip, he's like, every time we, get somebody else in the car that we're going out to the ski, Richard, tell them about what happened at the temple today. We are small, but we have strength in our numbers. And we can draw off of that strength in our community because our community is tight. I also want to continue on with, in Philippians, the next verse. Paul continued on and he said, whatever happens, conduct yourself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. Whatever happens to me, conduct yourself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. And I want to share a little bit regarding that too. At the time, he used the word which we would translate to let your conversation be as if becometh of the gospel of Christ. Let your conversation. However, conversation has evolved in its meaning over time. Nowadays, conversation is a misleading term for what he meant. We think of it as talk, right? But in the Latin term that it's derived from, it means conduct oneself. Conduct oneself in the manner of Christ. And so it is saying, let your behavior be worthy of those who are pledged to Christ. That's his challenge to the Philippians in this letter. Let your behavior, and I want to talk about our community and its behavior. My junior year in college, I was the other side of that Graceland spring break equation. There was a group of us that wanted to go to South Padre Island for spring break. For me, it meant going back home. Yes, I'm in. So we take my truck, which could seat 3 of us in the front of the truck, and another car full of people, and we go down. Same type of thing, call down. We got some people coming down from spring break from Graceland. They knew me. My parents better have known me. They knew me, but they didn't know everybody else in the group. Can we be dispersed amongst some households? Absolutely. The congregation took care of it for us, and we were dispersed amongst different households while we were down there. We're driving back up after spring break is over. We're driving back up. Same type of thing. I guess I have a habit of this. We're driving all night long on a Friday night or on a Saturday night. Then we're going to drive all day Sunday because it was at the time about 24 hours to get from South Texas to up to Lamoni. So we're going to drive all night long and then all the next day get in just in time so that we can get some sleep and roll into class on Monday morning. We get to around Temple, Texas. My truck starts shaking violently. Thought, wow, what is this? I crawled underneath the truck. I looked at it. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. In fact, I had to go back under and look at it again because I thought I didn't just see what I think I just saw. The bell housing of the transmission had cracked completely. Now, the bell housing of the transmission is that part of the transmission where it gets wide and it's thick, thick steel. It had cracked all the way through. Don't know how this happened. It's Sunday morning. Make it even worse, it's Easter Sunday morning. I convince a mechanic to come out and take a look at it that Sunday morning so that he can order the parts to fix it the next day. Comes out, got it. Okay. What are we going to do now? We're a bunch of broke college kids. In fact, any money we had, we spent it last week, spring break. Let's look up the local church, find the closest one. So we all piled in the second car, cramped ourselves into that second car, walked into the service about 30 minutes late, looking like we had just come off of a week of being at spring break, really ratty, etc. Walked in there. They said, what do you guys need? We need a place to stay tonight. They dispersed us immediately. Took us in. On top of it, it was Communion Sunday. They made sure that we each had communion in our home that evening. Place to stay, food to eat. All the next day while the truck's being worked on, we got on the road Monday night. Got back up to Graceland. They took us in. They didn't know us. We were a stranger, and yet they took us in. Community. We talk about our name change from community to Community of Christ, and that Wally B was one of the first leaders to initiate the discussion around that happening, to recognize who we are and who we are called to be. I mentioned that Wally B exhibited courage in his leadership. I also want to share with you that Wally B exhibited compassion in who he was. After he retired, all those years of serving our church, giving everything he had to this denomination, you know what he did with his retirement time? He went to the groves often and visited those who were there. He spent his time ministering to others, who many were in their final days or months or years. But he spent his time with them, offering what ministry he had. And I would say, going back to what Paul said, not only offering the ministry of presence by just remaining with them, but offering the ministry of strength by standing beside them, ready to help. This is the community of which we are a part of. This is the community that we have been blessed by and are thankful for. This is the community that we then want to return that ministry and share it with others. This is our culture. This is who we are and who we strive to be. A couple of weeks ago, I had a bingo. My bingo was because it was the grateful side of the card. I was full of gratefulness. Kathleen and I had gone to move Audrey and Addison in at Graceland, and also went up to Kalamazoo to move Cassandra into her new apartment. Share just briefly. Audrey had an apartment. It wasn't a furnished apartment. We needed furnishings for it. Kathleen was trying to get all the furnishings for it when we were in Kansas City. The family that we were staying with had taken us in for a week. And yet on top of that, Tom said, hey, I'm at work today and there is a couch and coffee table and end tables of somebody who's rented our space here at work, and they're gone now, and they left these behind. Any interest in those? Oh, yeah. That would be great. He said, let me just check and make sure it's okay. It's fine, Richard. We can take the couch and the end tables. This is a nice couch. This was better than anything I had in college. I said, but Tom, I have the SUV, but we're packing everything in the SUV. I don't have room for the couch and the end tables. Richard, I've got a small flatbed trailer. You can use that for the week, take it up to Lamona. I just bring it back and park it back in the garage, and we're all good. He had already taken us in for a week. On top of that, he found this for Audrey and then gave me the equipment I needed to be able to get it up there. We leave that situation, go on up to Kalamazoo. Go up to Kalamazoo. Kathleen's got a new apartment. We've got a chair, a couch and a love seat from Goodwill or some thrift store or something like that. All right, we'll go and see how we can get this in the SUV and get it out of there. Dave Wiley, I've got a truck. I'll meet you over there. We'll load it up in my truck. Dave, that would be great. Awesome. Great. So we move it over there. Let me help you haul it inside the house, inside the apartment. Okay. You've got other things to haul over here, don't you? Yeah, he spent the day with us, moving Cassandra in. Didn't have to do that. 4.5 years ago, when Cassandra started thinking about going to Western Michigan and Kalamazoo, I reached out to my cousin in Detroit and I said, do you know anybody in Kalamazoo that we might be able to reach out to? We're going to be up there for a weekend. He says, here's the name of a couple, Jerry and Merle. Give them a call. I've already reached out to them. They know to expect it. Okay. Reach out to Jerry and Merle. They thought they were taking us in for a weekend. They did not know what they signed up for that weekend. 4.5 years later, they have been parents to Cassandra. They've taken care of her so far away from us, and they've taken her in times of need. And every time we go up there, they take us in. And they offer whatever she needs. And at the end of last semester, when Cassandra was going to drive home, she needed her tires aired up. And Jerry aired up the tires and then changed her oil. She said, oh, you didn't have to do that. And he goes, you're my girl. Need a safe trip home. Community is strong. We are blessed by that community. We are a part of that community. And we strive to exhibit the aspects of community that we are called to exhibit. And I want to share with you from the book of Doctrine and Covenants 163. Community of Christ, your name given as a divine blessing is your identity and your calling. If you will discern and embrace its full meaning, you will not only discover your future, you will become a blessing to the whole creation. Do not be afraid to go where it beckons you to go. We are community of Christ. We are small. We are strong. We are compassionate. We are giving. And may we always live up to not only our name, but our identity.